Digital currencies before Bitcoin. The emergence of viable digital money is closely linked to developments in cryptography. This is not surprising when one considers the fundamental challenges involved with using bits to represent value that can be exchanged for goods and services. Three basic questions for anyone accepting digital money are: 1. Can I trust that the money is authentic and not counterfeit? 2. Can I trust that the digital money can only be spent once, also known as the double spend problem? 3. Can I be sure that no one else can claim this money belongs to them and not me? Issuers of paper money are constantly battling the counterfeiting problem by using increasingly sophisticated papers and printing technology. Physical money addresses the double spend issue easily because the same paper note cannot be in two places at once. Of course, conventional money is also often stored and transmitted digitally. In these cases, the counterfeiting and double spend issues are handled by clearing all electronic transactions through central authorities that have a global view of the currency in circulation. For digital money which cannot take advantage of esoteric inks or holographic strips, cryptography provides the basis for trusting the legitimacy of a user's claim to value. Specifically, cryptographic digital signatures enable a user to sign a digital asset or transaction, proving the ownership of that asset. With the appropriate architecture, digital signatures can also be used to address the double spend issue. When cryptography started becoming more broadly available and understood in the late 1980s, many researchers began trying to use cryptography to build digital currencies. These early digital currency projects issued digital money, usually backed by a national currency or precious metal such as gold. Although these earlier digital currencies worked, they were centralized and as a result were easy to attack by governments and hackers. Early digital currencies used a central clearinghouse to settle all transactions at regular intervals, just like a traditional banking system. Unfortunately, in most cases, these nascent digital currencies were targeted by worried governments and eventually litigated out of existence. Some failed in spectacular crashes when the parent company liquidated abruptly. To be robust against intervention by antagonists, whether legitimate governments or criminal elements, a decentralized digital currency was needed to avoid a single point of attack. Bitcoin is such a system, decentralized by design and free of any central authority or point of control that can be attacked or corrupted. History of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was invented in 2008 with the publication of a paper titled Bitcoin, a Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System, written under the alias of Satoshi Nakamoto. Nakamoto combined several prior inventions such as B-money and Hashcash to create a completely decentralized electronic cash system that does not rely on a central authority for currency issuance or settlement and validation of transactions. The key innovation was to use a distributed computation system called a proof-of-work algorithm to conduct a global election every 10 minutes, allowing the decentralized network to arrive at consensus about the state of transactions. This elegantly solves the issue of double spend where a single currency unit can be spent twice. Previously, the double spend problem was a weakness of digital currency and was addressed by clearing all transactions through a central clearinghouse. The Bitcoin network started in 2009, based on a reference implementation published by Nakamoto and since revised by many other programmers. The implementation of the proof-of-work algorithm that provides security and resilience for Bitcoin has increased in power exponentially and now exceeds the combined processing power of the world's top supercomputers. Bitcoin's total market value has at times exceeded $1 trillion, depending on the Bitcoin to dollar exchange rate. The largest transaction processed so far by the network was $1.1 billion, transmitted instantly and processed for a fee of only 68 cents. Satoshi Nakamoto withdrew from the public in April 2011, leaving the responsibility of developing the code and network to a thriving group of volunteers. The identity of the person or people behind Bitcoin is still unknown. However, neither Satoshi Nakamoto nor anyone else exerts individual control over the Bitcoin system, which operates based on fully transparent mathematical principles, open source code, and consensus among participants. The invention itself is groundbreaking and has already spawned new science in the fields of distributed computing, economics, and econometrics. A solution to a distributed computing problem. Satoshi Nakamoto's invention is also a practical and novel solution to a problem in distributed computing known as the Byzantine generals problem. Briefly, the problem consists of trying to agree on a course of action or the state of a system by exchanging information over an unreliable and potentially compromised network. Satoshi Nakamoto's solution, which uses the concept of proof of work to achieve consensus without a central trusted authority, represents a breakthrough in distributed computing and has wide applicability beyond currency. It can be used to achieve consensus on decentralized networks to prove the fairness of elections, lotteries, assets registries, digital notarization, and more. Bitcoin users, and their stories. Bitcoin is an innovation in the ancient technology of money. At its core, money simply facilitates the exchange of value between people. Therefore, in order to fully understand Bitcoin and its uses, we will examine it from the perspective of people using it. Each of the people and their stories, as listed here, illustrates one or more specific use cases. We will be seeing them throughout the book. North American low-value retail. Alice lives in Northern California's Bay Area. She has heard about Bitcoin from her techie friends and wants to start using it. We will follow her story as she learns about Bitcoin, acquires some, and then spends some of her Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee at Bob's Cafe in Palo Alto. This story will introduce us to the software, the exchanges, and the basic transactions from the perspective of a retail consumer. North American high-value retail. Carol is an art gallery owner in San Francisco. She sells expensive paintings for Bitcoin. This story will introduce the risks of a 51% consensus attack for retailers of high-value items. Offshore contract services. Bob, the cafe owner in Palo Alto, is building a new website. He has contracted with an Indian web developer, Gopash, who lives in Bangalore, India. Gopash has agreed to be paid in Bitcoin. This story will examine the use of Bitcoin for outsourcing, contract services, and international wire transfers. Web store. Gabriel is an enterprising young teenager in Rio de Janeiro, running a small web store that sells Bitcoin-branded t-shirts, coffee mugs, and stickers. Gabriel is too young to have a bank account, but his parents are encouraging his entrepreneurial spirit. Charitable donations. Eugenia is the director of a children's charity in the Philippines. Recently, she has discovered Bitcoin and wants to use it to reach a whole new group of foreign and domestic donors to fundraise for her charity. She is also investigating ways to use Bitcoin to distribute funds quickly to areas of need. This story will show the use of Bitcoin for global fundraising across currencies and borders, and the use of an open ledger for transparency in charitable organizations. Import and export. Mohammed is an electronic importer in Dubai. He is trying to use Bitcoin to buy electronics from the United States and China for import into the UAE to accelerate the process of payments for imports. This story will show how Bitcoin can be used for large business-to-business international payments tied to physical goods. Mining for Bitcoin. Jing is a computer engineering student in Shanghai. He has built a mining rig to mine for Bitcoin using his engineering skills to supplement his income. This story will examine the industrial base of Bitcoin, the specialized equipment used to secure the Bitcoin network and issue new currency. Each of these stories is based on the real people and real industries currently using Bitcoin to create new markets, new industries, and innovative solutions to global economic issues.